Hey Patriot, how's it going? Good morning. Good.
Heck yeah. Heck
You're
yeah.
up.
Hey, guy, go ahead, buddy.
I would say you're up bright and early.
Oh, yeah, I've had like 13 cups of coffee, bro. I'm always ready to party now. Let me tell you. Hey, guys, share the space, okay? Get some people in here. If you're just hearing the recording of this video, or sorry, this space, please share it. We got a lot of things to talk about today. Got an exciting topic.
Should we first up? Should we just give a minute or two for people to jump in?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no
Okay.
problem. Yeah. Um, yeah, man, it's been good.
Did
It's
did,
been good. Go ahead.
did you listen to the two spaces yesterday? The one JP had and the one Nine Realms did?
I did not get a chance to listen to Nine Realms. I heard the one JP did. I heard about. I really like that one. They've been doing great work. Looks like RUJI is going live, and I love the casino idea at the end of that space. What was the Nine Realms space about?
I don't know. I haven't listened to either of them, so
Oh,
I'm gonna try and do that this weekend. I was busy
oh,
yesterday.
okay. So, just anecdotally from I remember, the space with JP was good because they talked about all the hard work and they really seemed to understand that leveraging the base layer is not a good idea. If like if leverage is going to happen on the app layer, in my opinion, from what I got from it, should be with like exogenous capital, where risk is confined to the person who is trying to leverage. So they put a lot of thought into it. They talked, they went over previous failings of both THORChain and RUJI, and mistakes we've made and learning and going forward. So I thought it was a really productive conversation. I thought it was great.
Oh, nice. Yeah, good. Because and not just that, but also using Rune as collateral. Um, and we gotta avoid that altogether. Like I know every now and then people ask like, "Hey, when can I borrow against my Rune?" And I'm like, "No, we should not encourage that." And
Yeah.
I mean that's what Thorify was basically. And same with like using LP units as collateral or bond units as collateral. I think that's what we got to avoid. That's when people ask about risk of app layer. Is it like Thorify? It's really just avoiding using Rune as collateral. That was the
Right.
problem with Thorify. Um, app layer, I think it introduces different kinds of risks, but not as long as we can avoid using Rune as collateral, then we won't have the same problem with Thorify ever again. So
Right.
yeah. Should we do a little quick update on Raise the Bond?
Heck yeah, man. Heck yeah. Do you
Yeah.
have I have some numbers, unless you go ahead if you're
No,
ready.
you go. Yeah, no, go ahead. Good. Let's hear your
All
numbers.
right, guys. All right. So the Raise the Bond campaign, we're up to 103 notes. So we are now up, like we are now growing to 120, which is fantastic. On the last churn, we treaded water a little bit. We were going to have more nodes churn in, but some nodes failed to update. So that's no big deal. We're going to get on the next one. But one thing encouraging that I like to see from that is nodes were using that opportunity as a means to compete. So I saw some node operators with BP saying, "Hey, if you are a bond provider that was part of the node that failed to update, please leave that node operator and come join me. I'm the one who's going to make sure you stay churned in. I keep up, so that was an early sign of the of the competitive spirit of nodes,
It
which I think is a healthy dynamic.
it is getting competitive. We're all trying to help each other, but I am noticing it's like, okay, we're starting to highlight what's better about us, versus others, which is good. That's how competition works, and it's
Right.
it's ultimately best for the consumer.
So,
So yeah.
well, I think what's good is right now, because we making them more network decentralized makes every node operator safer. And so that's why Kenton has been really serious about this. This is why Runetard is going out of his way to train his competition, right? Because the strength of THORChain is absolutely essential. But this is a sneak peek into what it's going to be when we hit to 120, the competitive nature, which is great. Okay. But up 10, it's been like a largely a collaborative effort, which is both really encouraging because it seems like the node operators have are very deep thinkers and understand the first principles of the network. So on the next churn, we're supposed to looks like we're going to go to 107 and have just under 5 million more rune churn in, which is great. And then we had just recently, I got this notification, 430,000 Rune that was taken off exchanges. So we're just continuing to suck Rune off the exchanges, which is great.
Totally. And also you mentioned it's good for the nodes and everything, everyone's commitment, and but it's also bond providers too. You know, I'm still talking to people who have never bond provided before, have Rune on the centralized exchange, taking it off. Like they're coming around, they're starting to understand and get it. Because ultimately, it's what we need. We need bond providers. We need people with Rune sitting on their hands doing nothing with it to start doing something. And I think they just don't know, right? It's like that's what's good about us talking and tweeting about it is just helping people get comfortable with it and understand it. Um, so yeah, kudos to the bond providers as well. Because like especially right now, like this is basically like this is a bear market in essence. Like this is
Yeah.
sentiment is bad, it's negative, and especially with THORChain, you know, because of our issues last few months. But overall, broadly speaking, this is like a bear market for crypto right now. But THORChads are still active. They're still motivated. They're still thinking. They're still curious. And you mentioned, you know, next churn we'll go 107 nodes. After that, we should go to 111. That's what's in the queue right now. So and that gets us close, pretty darn close, to all-time high number of nodes. Um, you know, let alone when the market starts turning around and we get more THORChads waking back up, starting to pay attention again. I'm sure we'll get another wave of those people coming in the bond too. So I feel pretty good that we can get to 120 nodes.
Absolutely. And guys, this is working. I know everyone's so excited. I'm so excited about the app layer. Okay. I can't even tell you how excited I am, but this is working. This is steadily a healthy way because, you know, as Kenton said, we've got a reputational hit. And so we have to rebuild confidence in THORChain. And this is how we do it, guys. And you're seeing it happen where, you know, people are pulling their Rune off Binance or whatever. They're getting it bonded. Okay. And then as THORChain gets more fees and as we increase the pendulum to go to bond providers and node operators, now they're getting more fees, right? So arbitrageurs are now having to swap Rune with centralized exchanges, which is just pulling more, Rune off the exchange. Okay, and if Binance or any other centralized exchange needs to buy Rune so they can put it back on their exchange, well, that's just buy pressure. Go ahead, have fun. You know what I mean? But this is working, very successful. Hey, Shapeshift, go ahead. You got your hand raised.
GM. I just wanted to say, in interests of upgrading our methodical strategy, and instead of just retweeting, go ahead and quote post it and direct it towards some Binance people, because I think ultimately the greatest thing would be to convert and rune pill the people holding on Binance or just buying and transferring over to bond with you guys. It
Yeah,
just seems that that's the obvious thing. I mean, retweeting's nice, retweeting's great, but if we could like intentionally include like the Link Marines or the Doge people, or fill in the blank, have too many integrations that have been too underserved and too unacknowledged. And I'm trying to be optimistic about it, but I've been trying to do it, but there's only so much time in the day, and
yeah. Well,
one by one.
Yeah, I've been seeing you've been doing great work, Shapeshift. You're a reliable reposter and commenter and commenter, and then you're really helping the algorithm. And guys, that's all of us in here. It's not just me, Kenton, Shapeshift. You're all part of this massive army. So we're all amplifiers in our own way. So make sure to tell the world what we're doing here, what we've built. App Layer is an incredible 0 to 1, and we need people to understand that THORChain has turned a page, and so has Kujira, which is now Rujira. We're a whole different animal now, so it's really exciting. Kenton, am I missing anything on the Raise the Bond campaign at all?
No, I think that's good. I just want to add to the Binance stuff. So like I've actually started shit posting on Binance Square. Like they have their own like version of Twitter on Binance, and it's actually interesting because I have a Google alert set up with THORChain and Rune, and I keep getting links to Binance, to their Square. Like people will post articles on Binance Square, and that gets captured in the Google alert. So for anyone who likes to post stuff or write articles or do anything, videos, post it on Binance Square as well. Because I'm not trying to say, I don't know, it's probably worse than, I don't know if it sucks, if it's going to work, I don't know, but there's 60 million RUNE on Binance. And maybe some of those people aren't paying attention to Twitter. Maybe they're paying attention to their Binance Square. So I've been just trying to throw stuff on there too, see if it gets any traction. Um, and I want to add too, actually, Patriot, we were talking about all the RUNE on Binance. So if you look, Binance Earn is paying like 3 or 4% for people, like yield on people's RUNE, and that's going, where that yield is coming from is going to short. Is coming from short sellers. So people are borrowing RUNE to sell it short, and they got to pay interest on that, right? They get it on their loan, right? So anybody, if you have RUNE on Binance and you're earning interest on it, you're literally driving the price down on yourself. You're giving your RUNE to someone to sell. It's like, don't, like, if you want interest on your RUNE that bad, get it off Binance and put it into a node, because you will earn higher interest, and instead you'll actually encourage the price to go up. It's like, it's win-win. It's really a no-brainer. Like anyone who has RUNE on Binance, on Binance Earn, is, if you've seen that meme of the retard head where it's all his skull is collapsed, like that's you. So don't do that. Yeah.
Don't be a retard with a collapsed skull, boys and girls. Don't do it. Hey guys,
Yeah.
if you are just joining, please share the space. All right, if people are listening recording, please share. Let's get more people in here. Shapeshift, I'm a little time constrained today, so this is always going to be open. Kenton will probably go longer, but I have a board function I have to go in a little bit, so I just want to make sure that I get out what I have to say, and then we're going to open it up, of course. Okay, Kenton, do you think this is a good time to talk about the main topic of today, which is privacy, or is there something else we need to
Yeah.
cover?
No, let's jump into privacy. What are your thoughts? When do you want to go with it?
Well, guys, I don't know if you all know, but Maya Protocol is about to do something that I find very brave and absolutely needed. Okay. They are going to be adding an asset called Zcash. Now, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on Zcash, but this is a privacy coin. I don't necessarily understand fully the mechanics of how good that privacy is or whatever. Doesn't matter though. Okay. This is a privacy coin and this is going to be decentralized. And that means anyone's going to be able to swap to this permissionlessly. Okay. And I absolutely love the no hesitation from Maya Protocol. They're just ruthlessly pushing what is right, and privacy. Everyone in here should agree. I hopefully agree, and if not, you'll agree after the space. Is the right thing. Okay, so for those who don't know, just in case, Maya Protocol is a fork of THORChain. Maya Protocol can be thought of as like THORChain's hot Mexican girlfriend. Okay, and like a good girlfriend, she was there for us when we were sick, telling us that everything's going to be okay, making us tacos, right? They really helped us with the whole THORFi fiasco, right? So we got to be there for her. We got to be there for our girlfriend. So I want you guys armoring up and being ready to fight when they do this, because this is a big, big deal. This has never happened before. All right. So you guys be ready. They're going to use various arguments why privacy is bad. And I think we can talk about those. What do you think, Kenton?
Sure. Yeah. I actually think privacy is where the battle is going to be. Like,
Yes. Yes.
everyone's talking about, Trump in the U.S. as being pro crypto and everything, and I agree, and I think they will be, but they're going to be pro public blockchains. I think where they'll really drop the hammer is on privacy, and again, I don't know. It'll be more indirect. Like it'll be impossible to get a bank account. Like my business accounts, for example, they're okay with crypto, not privacy coins, right? I have to prove and show I'm not touching any privacy coins. So that's how they're going to get us, I think. And then maybe it will be more overt, where they do go after some specific people, like they did with Tornado Cash and Samurai Wallet. um, and maybe they just go after. If that happens, I think it'll be basically just like what they did. They'll just go after a couple people to try and make an example out of them, and then hopefully everybody else falls in line. But that's the key with decentralization, is to make it so there isn't really any. Sure, they go after some individual people, but they're not really that. There might be a cog, but they're not the whole machine. So uh, and like and everyone with the Tornado Cash, like everyone says, oh, the court is throwing, OFAC can't sanction Tornado Cash anymore. It's a huge win, and blah blah blah. And I agree, it is. But if I didn't read the actual like verdict or anything, but I just read articles with excerpts and quotes. And the one quote that stood out for me is that where the judges overruled is that they said that Tornado Cash is lines of code that is not owned by any foreign national or entity. Therefore, it can't be treated like no person owns it. So it wasn't, in my mind, it wasn't so much that they said privacy was legal. It was, they just said, well, there's no person for us to attack. Which is, I feel like it's those are two different things, right?
Yes.
So that's how we protect ourselves from tyranny and Big Brother, is make sure there's no person, whether a human individual or corporate individual, that they can attack, that they can go after. Because then the whole other argument about privacy being right is different and separate. And that's always what worries me about crypto in general, is that like it doesn't matter what the laws say and do and what the court history is. Like, I mean, it helps, but at the end of the day, people with all the guns are going to decide what they want to do, right? They'll make up new laws, they'll reinterpret previous ones to fit their agenda, right? That's how tyranny works.
Yes.
So so I do feel like that's going to be the real last stand with crypto and Big Brother as privacy.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And, the way that I think this happens is we have to push the argument. That's why everyone in here, everyone listening to this, you have to be ready to fight this and have the receipts of why privacy is absolutely essential. Because, Kenton said they're going to go after businesses, or maybe they'll go over entities. Like, you'll lose your bank account, you'll get, but at the end of the day, privacy is what protects businesses. Okay, if you have, and individuals, if you have your entire net worth publicly available on chain, well, then it's really easy for someone to figure that out once they do one transaction with you, and then figure out where you live, and then come with a wrench attack, right? I mean, we need privacy. The thing that should be public is government stuff, right? Look at what's going on in my country. I don't know if people are familiar with Doge, right? This organization from Elon Musk. They're projected to go over $1 trillion in government waste, fraud, and abuse. $1 trillion, $1,000 billion, an amount that I can't even comprehend as an individual, right? And just think about the latest hack that we had, Bybit. That was 1.5 billion. We're talking over $1,000 billion of our own taxpayer dollars as an American being wasted. Okay, so when the government says that, oh, bad people are going to use privacy to launder funds, I'm sorry, you guys are the biggest launderers of them all. If government didn't have double standards, they'd have no standards. Okay, you cannot let them lecture to you or use moral arguments or for the greater good, because they are the greatest enemy. They are the problem, not you. Not the sovereign individual who wants to live in a world where you don't have to worry about someone knowing your damn net worth, showing up and threatening your family, your way of life, or your business. There's a lot I could say here. I gotta calm down.
I know, yeah. Well, and I agree with you there, but for me, that's where I get stuck and hung up. Is it does become political, right?
Yeah.
And people, especially now, I'd say the majority of people in crypto are just in it to make money. You're not in it for the philosophy. And most people believe in government. They think it's necessary. Even people who believe in small government still think it's necessary. And so when you say stuff like privacy, and it's like, well, ultimately the point is to protect yourself from thieves, right? From people who want to take from you. And the biggest thief and the biggest takers in the world are governments.
Yes.
And that's why they don't want it, because they're the ones that have their hands in your pocket. But vast majority of people cannot acknowledge that. They can't accept that. They won't. They'll do everything they can to avoid thinking about it. And so that actually kind of makes me a bit worried or a bit bearish in a sense, because like in theory, Monero should be huge, bigger than Bitcoin, right?
Yes.
And I'm sure if Monero was first, it would be Bitcoin, right? Um, but it's not, and nobody cares about it, right? How many even Bitcoiners call Monero a shitcoin? It's like, what? Have you lost a plot? Like, what is going on in your brain? So where I'm going with this is, I wonder if there's a high enough demand for privacy. I don't think there is. And so it's
Well,
kind of like one of those things, like we need it 100%, but is this going to be regaled to some, like just the hardcores like us, whereas everybody else is happy with having no privacy?
yeah, I mean, well, the moment that you get really well-known, prominent people that get attacked, let's just say Bitcoin explodes in value, right? The whole market goes up. That only incentivizes people to be violent against well-known people who hold Bitcoin. And at the moment that you see people getting targeted because their information, their net worth, is not obfuscated and is viewable on chain, that's when I think you're gonna see the pendulum swing a little bit. We're very early. You're right, Kenton. We are very early. But guys, as individuals who understand the importance of this, we are curators of the zeitgeist. We have to build the zeitgeist, and then we have to curate it. Okay, we know what ultimately is the right way forward, and so I need you guys to be thinking of the arguments they're going to use. Right? They'll say things like, "You're helping the DPRK," and it's like, no, I'm sorry. We're building a model of the world that prevents the formation of DPRKs. The fact that the DPRK exists now is largely an indictment of the current system, right? And if you think that stolen funds being laundered with a privacy coin, like, it's not our fault that coins got stolen, right? In fact, this greater community invented the means to prevent that from happening with technology like Voltisig. We're actively figuring out the problems that are related to the issues that we face. Go ahead, Kenton.
Well, I'd say, and add to your how privacy could help Bybit, like having a few $billion sitting in one address. That's a giant billboard to say, hey, come steal from me, right? If you couldn't see that, you wouldn't know to go try and attack that address, right? So it's kind of like having your windows open at your house, like your blinds open versus your blinds closed. If you have all this expensive computers and TVs and stereo, all this kind of stuff in your house, closing your blinds can go a long way to helping it prevent it from being stolen, because nobody knows what's in it, right? When you're in your car, if you've got something, maybe you have your laptop or something in your car, you put it under the seat or you put it in the trunk, right? So no one can see it. It's still in your car, but you just put it out of sight to keep it out of mind for a would-be thief. That's privacy. That's the whole point. Um, so yeah, I'll let Steve jump. We have Steve on. I actually have
Yeah,
to
go ahead, Steve.
welcome you, because I think the time zone doesn't cooperate with you. So I think so. Thanks for joining at a weird hour for you.
It's no problem. Thanks for having me, man. I've been gone for a while due to some health issues, so nice to be back.
Oh, good.
I just wanted to chime in and say, like, listen, when it comes to any attempt to sort of put a negative onus on THORChain or responsibility on THORChain or its app layer to prevent privacy, the argument that has always appealed to me and that I've always found simplest is that it's not just about your right to be private and make sure that you're not the victim of wrench attacks or something like that. That's all important. But it's also that on a fundamental level, code is speech. And a blockchain code is something that facilitates the transmission of information between parties, just like speech is a method of, transmitting information between parties. Just like I have the legal right to have a private conversation with somebody and not, have to, like, tell you my opinion on, what my favorite pizza topping is or something like that. I should also have the right, and everyone should have the right to transmit information on a blockchain between each other, private. And just because people can use that to do bad things does not mean that that right to transmit information without being censored, which is what some sort of like ban or, you know, prohibition on privacy tech would be, should be banned. Just like the same way that we wouldn't ban free speech because we're not like, you know, Germany or something like that. I mean, God forbid. But yeah, I just wanted to say that, and you know, I also posted a little meme on my Twitter that I encourage you all to, you know, copy and paste and keep somewhere on your computer. It's just a nice little friendly meme that says, "I'm sorry that your warrantless surveillance regime was built on the assumption that people would always need intermediaries to transact." That's always been my favorite meme to respond to people who hate privacy coins. It's just a very simple acknowledgement of like, "Oh, I'm so sorry that you've gotten used to all of this, but the reality is we don't really need it anymore. It was never going to hold up anyways, and you can get used to it, or you can just keep complaining, but all you're going to get is a polite little apology."
I think that was well said. And we need to invert this relationship. We need to invert this expectation. Okay. Any information that should be publicly available when it comes to funds, that should go to government and the individuals to retain privacy. You've all seen what government has done when they have no accountability and they obfuscate. They waste trillions of dollars. I mean, my country is hopelessly in debt. I bet many people who live in different countries are in the same predicament. And as a public official myself, let me tell you guys, these people do not give a shit. They don't give a flying fuck about responsibility when it comes to taxpayer dollars. They're absolute killers. They're killers, okay? They don't care. They're only interested in promoting themselves. That's why I personally stepped up and got involved as a public official, and it's opened my eyes tremendously. It shakes me to the core. So what Maya Protocol is doing, as Kenton Proof of Steve has been talking about, is absolutely essential and is extremely brave, and we should all be very appreciative of them. So we need to be there for them. I see the MOCA is actually in here. A MOCA is, I talked about before, it's an app that's going to be used to transact in stores. They use decentralized liquidity protocol, the decentralized liquidity of, you know, THORChain and Maya protocol, right? I think there needs to be a privacy element there. If MOCA is going to be used in stores, I bet the store is going to want to obfuscate, you know, how much money they have. Okay. So this is a very important, this is, and as Kenton said, this is essential. This is the fight. Okay. Decentralized, permissionless, all that stuff is great. But if we don't have privacy, your kids will never be free, ever. 100%. We have a speaker up here, a new speaker, Justin. Go ahead.
I'm not going to take too long here. Really interesting space. Okay, so you can look at privacy in terms of, okay, the government, and you can get all libertarian with it. And I just want to politely point out that libertarianism isn't too trendy, isn't too fashionable at the moment. But from a practical standpoint, let's say that governments were all benevolent. Let's imagine we live in a fantasy utopia. It's still not very practical to just have civilians or like other parties know what transactions I'm making, or businesses. Like, what if they use my transaction history to advertise to me? Or if someone uses my transaction history to say, "Oh, Justin just bought a new Ferrari, let's go steal his Ferrari," you know? So there's like a fourth element to why we should be positive about certain privacy coins, and why they could be seeing a comeback and a uptake, is because people just will find out how impractical it is that anybody, not just governments, like individuals and businesses, can see all their transactions. And I know that doesn't really offer much insight into like THORChain and that, and I just wanted to join in because it's always fun to participate. So that's all I really wanted to say.
And then Justin, I think that was great actually. Like you brought up, touched on some really good points, because it does relate to THORChain and AppLayer actually. And so like for example, I actually think you're right. I think that's maybe how privacy and privacy crypto will start getting more adoption, is through that narrative. Is like, hey, we want to start spending this at stores. Stores want to start accepting it, but you don't want to show someone, like when you buy something at a store, you don't show them your bank account balance, right? You just give them money. And I can see that's how it's going to be rolled out. And then how does this relate to THORChain or even Maya with app layer? Because if we have like some kind of, like JP has talked about on THORChain's app layer, we could have some kind of privacy app. Um, and maybe this is something that like MOCA can use in their back end to, because MOCA is tying into THORChain liquidity. Maybe they somehow use this privacy app layer to give the users, the customer at the store and the storefront, privacy on the transaction. And then same with Maya. Maybe somehow Maya is integrated in that, and they can use Zcash somehow to do that. So I think it's a great point, and I think that's a very plausible way for privacy to kind of get like like you've seen the Trojan horse Bitcoin meme. You know, it's the horse is Bitcoin and the belly is freedom. You know, it could be something similar with privacy coins being spent at business, and in the belly is freedom. So not a good point.
Yeah, I thought that was well said, because I'm kind of intense with this stuff, but I think when we come to making arguments, we have to make arguments that appeal to the greatest amount of people. And I think that is just a simple and succinct argument that Justin made that just resonates with everybody. You know what I mean? Going down the philosophical path like me, or it's libertarian or whatever, I think that is that might not, that'll work for us, but when the time comes, we have to be choosy about what we push forward. And I think that argument is probably really effective. Eric, welcome to the stage. I'm going to go ahead and move my headphones slightly off my ear, and I'm really excited to see how loud your voice is going to be, buddy.
GM, can you hear me? Test.
Yeah.
Test.
Oh, dude, you sound so amazing. It's great. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. Thanks. I do hope that in the recording this is not incredibly loud. But just going back a little bit about what you mentioned about MOCA. So I'm part of the team, and the fact that you guys have this in your radar and how important it is for people to be able to have privacy when they transact on chain publicly is a huge deal for us. So what we're basically going to do is we're going to have publicly transactions, well, public transactions for both sides, but we're working in a solution that will enable both businesses and users to not link what happens on the other side. So they're going to buy, but people are not going to be able to trace where that wallet came from. And I'm not really able to share a lot, but there's going to be some abstraction and some private wallets. So you're going to have your main wallet. MOCA has a wallet, and well, it's one of our features. But also, you're going to be able to have like alternative wallets, and people are not going to be able to see those. They're going to be able to see your main wallet, but not the ones. And you can actually transact between your wallets seamlessly within the app, and that's going to be private. So this is definitely a huge deal for us, and I know that for THORChain and Maya in general, it's one of the foundations that the whole protocol was built in. You know, the foundations that Bitcoin had, and it somehow got lost along the way. And then like Patriot Sounds said a few minutes ago, they are even calling Monero a shitcoin. Why? Because there's some maximalism out there that just doesn't do well. And in the end, if it provides a use case and it provides some utility for the users that another coin cannot do, then it's well received. And I'm Mexican, so I can definitely attest that Maya is the hot Mexican girlfriend of THORChain.
She is the hottest girlfriend, bro. She's the hottest. Guys, I met the MOCA team in real life at Rare Evil in Las Vegas. And I'm gonna tell you, like, I am so excited about that tech. This is a great addition. This is like another type of app layer. It doesn't compete with the app layer, I don't think at all. It is just another component to complete the decentralized pie that we're all trying to build. Okay, first principle stuff. And I think between THORChain, Maya Protocol, Rujira, and MOCA, we guys are going to be the central pillars to push the liberation of the next 2 generations. This is so important, guys. Being able to transact and buy goods and services with decentralized liquidity pools is something that's completely untapped. How many businesses does there exist in the world? Several hundreds of millions. Okay. And even if MOCA were to get 0.01% of that, whatever, it is still incredibly powerful, and it is just, it's a whole other thing. Okay. So I hope you guys are excited. This is why I'm pushing the Raise the Bond campaign, because I believe once we get these new things going, app layers, the various primitives, you get MOCA going, the fee revenue from this whole new thing that we're building is so incredible that I don't think we're going to have a problem to scale. This might be a, you know, I think there's a lot of, this is something to debate, but guys, I think the price of an asset is commensurate with the volume, and the volume that's untapped right now blows my mind.
Can I ask Eric a question about MOCA?
Go for it, brother.
Is MOCA doing some kind of like their own proprietary privacy then? Yeah.
Not okay. So it's not our own privacy. We're just gonna tap into decentralized open source protocols that allow holders to have privacy, and Zcash is going to be a main driver of this in Maya. And just like Peterson said, so here's the thing, and this is why we believe it's going to be incredibly well received by the THORChain and the Maya communities, because like you said, it's going to be, let's imagine that it's just 0.01% for the protocol. Well, imagine that there's also going to be a 0.0x% for users that onboard businesses. So let's say that you onboard Starbucks into MOCA and thus onboard them into THORChain and Maya. You're going to get a very, very small cut of all of their transactions. So imagine having 100,000 people evangelizing THORChain through businesses and getting a slash of that. So that's where the real adoption comes, when you are not only benefiting the protocol, but also the users.
Right.
I'm curious how their privacy works. So MOCA will, I understand how the customer and the business can maintain privacy, but will MOCA be able to see what's going on? Or is MOCA is in the dark just like every other person in the world?
We are also going to be in the dark. I can actually bring in a developer probably next week to talk a little bit more about that, because I'm just a marketing person.
Sure.
I'm not the tech guy. I know how the tech works, but I cannot go so in depth in
Sure.
how that works. But I do know that we are also not going to be able to see what's happening in the background, to keep the private part really, really private.
That's great. That's good to hear.
That's why I like you, Kenton, because I actually asked that same question to Zay when I was at Rare Evo in Las Vegas. That was my first concern as well. So you have the same instinct I do. It's great. And guys, just to talk about a little bit about MOCA, I know we're here to talk about privacy, but MOCA is going to be a key pillar. I mean, we all are, right? I mean, why would you use MOCA? Why would an average person who does not have crypto exposure want to use MOCA? Well, because it's much cheaper, not only for them, but it's cheaper for the business, right? How much do credit card companies charge businesses to use it? Visa, MasterCard, American Express, whatever, 100 basis points, 300 basis points. With MOCA, that you don't have that middleman siphoning that fee. And in fact, MOCA, because they're starting out, for really small transactions, like a coffee shop, like MOCA, right? Coffee, you could have no fee, right? They don't care. MOCA is just happy that you're using the app. And then for like really big swaps, then you can have a percentage on there. So it's cheaper not only for the business to use MOCA, but it's cheaper for the consumer. And because there's margin being saved, the business could actually make prices cheaper for people who want to use something like MOCA to transact, because they're already saving money as an incentive. So the normal economic forces of what MOCA builds and what other people are building, this just sells itself. It just works, right? This is a 0 to 1. It's everything we built together, THORChain, Maya, MOCA, app layer, it's just better. And that's why it's going to work. But we have to fight for privacy. So essential. We have to really be ready for this, guys. So if and there's a lot of new people in here. Please, guys, share the space. If you hear the recording again, share. We've got to get people knowledgeable about this stuff. We got to let them know what's going on.
But that's for me, that's the bullish case on privacy. Because you know, if we come at it from the angle of code is free speech, you know, governments are bad, you know, blah blah blah. I think I think we lose. We won't win that battle, even though we are right. But I don't think we'll win that way. I think the way we will win is surreptitiously, like through apps like MOCA and making like crypto usage, like payments, like a reality in day-to-day business. And the only way to make that reality is having privacy, right? We have to introduce it there, and everyone will agree, right? No one would fight that. Like everyone agrees that when you buy coffee, you don't want to show Starbucks your bank balance or your net worth. Like everyone agrees that's wrong. And so I think that's how we're going to get privacy in. And then as it's getting bigger, more popular, and then, you know, Big Brother maybe might want to step in, then we fall back on the it's free speech, government is wrong, and blah blah blah, and we can protect ourselves that way. But at least we'll have some momentum behind us on the actual use case and people actually using it. So that part of it does make me excited and bullish on privacy, and that it will win and we will get it through.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. And I think this is a fun thing. If people want to meme the Maya protocol's THORChain's hot Mexican girlfriend with some AI tools, I think that might be a fun thing that we could start pushing. You know what I mean? Just this big, busty, beautiful Mexican girl with some tacos. You know what I mean? That might be a great way to get some interest on this. But guys, I know
But
Protein Heaven.
just don't
Go
do
ahead.
like Queen, and they made what's his name,
Do Kwon?
Do Kwan into a girl. And I'm like, oh, it's so freak, because every time I look at her, I'm like, oh, she's hot. I'm like, oh wait, that's a guy. Don't do that with Alex. Don't turn him into a girl, because then
No.
it'll be this
Oh my
hot
God.
chick, and I'm like, oh man, it's every time I look at her, it's a guy. So come up with a unique girl.
If anyone makes Alex into a girl, I will fight you at a conference. Okay, do not do that. Okay, because I love that man, and don't don't make me sexually confused.
Not,
I don't need that conflict in my life. Okay,
and I'm sure he is sexy. He's sexy in his own right, right? But as a man, not as a woman.
damn right. You don't need to give Alex a pair of boobs and you know what I mean, slender skin. Just don't do it. Okay.
You know
Oh,
what's gonna happen
I,
now?
I
Someone's
know.
gonna do it
We
for
said
sure.
it now, right? Oh my gosh. Okay, guys, I think I got what out of my system. I got to leave in about 30 or so minutes. If someone wants to come up and speak, have questions, this is an open forum, guys. We can talk about anything. I mean, we're talking about privacy. Go ahead, Shapeshift. You got your hand raised. Hey, you're muted, man.
Yeah,
there you go.
if the mute button works, that would be welcome. I just wanted to fundamentally make a few points. Real quick, I'll take 35 maybe seconds. We got to remember that Binance incubated THORChain and was awarded, and I forget the number, it was a good 8 figures of BNB Rune, and that may be the bulk of what's sitting on Binance. I don't know. And fundamentally, blockchain and the immutable ledger is a threat to creative accounting. And that goes for the unaudited and the unauditable. And I think that's maybe the threat that's perceived. I may be wrong. Just thought I'd throw that out there for discussion. And as far as the stolen funds and all that, I remember falling in love with the analogy that it's like we're not using the ocean for a couple of pirates. That the thieves are the pirates, but then just because there's a couple of pirates in the ocean, that nobody's going to touch the ocean again. So I kind of fell in love with that analogy.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean that's the goalpost. That is a never-ending goalpost because exploited funds exist on the layer one. You can never have privacy. That is their argument they're going to use, which is such a silly and ridiculous argument because it doesn't scale, right? You guys can what I like to think of the Bybit hack and every other hack, I can think of that as a security audit, as them getting a bounty for a security audit. Every time this happens, these are lessons, right? This is lessons for the industry of how we should be better protecting people and their assets, okay? And it is better for it to happen now while this industry is still relatively small compared to how big it can grow, okay? So you could make the argument that the DPRK saved our future selves from being exploited from not just billions but trillions of dollars. Okay, now the DPRK, I hate them. I don't like that. I don't like that government. I feel so sorry for the people. But at the end of the day, these are lessons, and we can apply these lessons. Okay, if there exists exploited funds on the layer one, and if the layer one wants to roll back and undo that, that's on them. But as THORChain and these other technologies, we just observing layer one transactions. That's all we're doing. Okay. And as I said before, guys, my own government, your own government, whatever, they are the biggest thieves of them all, right? I'm sure everyone here who's held cash in their life, you use laundered funds or stolen funds that were moved around in cash. You can't know. You know what I mean? You'll never know that, right? Once the cash gets injected in the system, you know, and that has always been the sense of money laundering, which far exceeds what has been laundered through blockchain by several factors.
Well, and if and if you really want to break down money laundering, like the vast majority of money laundering that exists today is money related to drugs or tax evasion. And it's like, well, drugs should all be legal and there shouldn't be any taxes. So it's like, what's really being hidden, you know what I mean? Like for the actual from outright thefts, like with Bybit, that is such a minuscule amount of the transaction volume in TradFi too, of like of actual illicit funds. Like most of the so-called money laundering illicit funds are really from things that should be legal in the first place. It shouldn't be banned. So yeah.
Yeah, and I pay my taxes like a good American. But honestly, at this point, given the revelations that we've had, people who have done tax evasion, I think have done moral actions because their own tax dollars, had they paid them, had given them to the government, would have been used to subjugate them and their families. Okay, I like the gig is up when it comes to tax evasion. When it comes to pay your taxes, do what's right for society. The argument's completely been flipped on its head given the revelations that we had, that things we already knew. Let's be clear. Everyone already knew that the government was hugely wasteful and abusive when it came to the taxpayer's discretionary income. Everyone already knew that. But to see it, to see the cavalier recklessness, the uncaringness, the having money going everywhere and there's no memo fields or any descriptors of what it's being used for. There's no accountability. Or hearing in my own country, they spent $1 billion for a 10-point questionnaire regarding parks that had no feedback loop, that went literally nowhere. Just $1 billion being given to some company to do this survey that did nothing, literally did nothing. I mean, you could have burned that cash and at least it would have given off heat. You know what I mean? It's over, guys. It's done. They have no moral ground to hide on, but it's up to us to point that out. And it's up to us when Maya Protocol, again, the same thing here, Maya Protocol is going to step up and do this. It's up to us to make this argument and to help them.
Right on. We got Doxed jumped on stage.
Hey,
Hey,
real
how's it?
quick, I'd like to reclaim my last
Oh,
9
sorry.
seconds.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I just wanted to simply say for the record that I'm delighted to pay a shitload of taxes after I make an intentional taxable event. And that we got to maybe not be hostile with Binance since they were a crucial part in the incubation process of THORChain. And CZ on record said he was going to be interested in focusing on DeFi upon release from his incarceration. Just
Yeah,
wanted to make that point.
Yeah, I don't know if that got. I hope that's not what we're saying here. We're not hostile to Binance. We're just saying that the rune on Binance is being used.
No, no, no.
It
Understood.
and
Understood. I'm
yeah,
just
yeah.
saying
Um,
there. Yeah, I'm just saying we'll keep it congenial and friendly.
no, I think ZZ is one of the more forward-thinking CEOs of all the centralized exchange, and I do appreciate. I mean, him coming out and saying, that dexes are going to be bigger than sexes. I mean, that's just visionary thinking. So 100%. But we do need to get that rune off their centralized exchange, guys. So bond your rune. Go ahead, Doxed.
Hey, how's it going? I really agree with the end state that you guys are arguing for, and I think it's good to get that message out there. But I just worry, I just worry of whether the network is ready to go like full out on that vision, and like how much is it about survival and getting in a place where it's actually too difficult to attack you. I just don't think that I just don't think, I don't know, it doesn't feel like we're there based on how all the recent things went down. It felt like there was a small amount of people that in effect making a lot of decisions.
Yeah.
And I just feel like maybe you're going to alienate, like, to get to the point where you can't be attacked.
Yeah.
You need a lot more money involved in this. A lot more decentralization, all those things. And I'm not sure that this message is gonna, it's almost like this is a grand strategy. This is a long game, and maybe this isn't the message that's gonna bring in the huge amount of collateral needed to get this project to where it needs to get. Maybe it's like a staged attack. It's a staged thing, and then you're in that place because you've earned it. But I don't know. It worries me a little bit because I just think, as Kenton was saying, it's like how much appetite and how many people have really thought about the arguments that you're making, because most people are comfortable with a situation where a transaction can be reversed because they're used to that within the banking system, and or like things being frozen feels, everyone's at home with that. I'm I'm just, I don't know. It just feels maybe this needs to wait. I don't know.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
Well, it is
So,
waiting. Oh, sorry, good, Patriot.
yeah.
oh, sorry, Kent, didn't mean to cut you off. So I think about this every day, man. I think about this every single day. Are we strong enough to do this? Can we survive? What's the response going to be? Is the Trump administration, one that I helped get elected, I've spent so much time to, are they going to embrace privacy? These are things that are ultimately unknowable. But without, I worry sometimes how I convey myself up here if I sound like a ranting lunatic sometimes. But let me just give you how I look at the world, guys. Okay, just look around you. Look around you. Look at the EU. Look at the pro-censorship regime going on. Look at Le Pen getting kicked out of France. Never mind the politics. Who cares? It's the fact that someone on a leading political party is getting thrown in jail, right? Look at Romania, a similar story. Look at the United Kingdom. You can't say certain words without, being arrested or having someone knock on your door. You know what I mean? My own country was going down the same path. And now, after a very hard work, so much time on an individual level and millions of Americans, we have a 4-year window, a 4-year precious window of some freedom, of some respite from this tyranny around the world. There is no other time to do this. We need to do this now. And the problem I have with the argument is, are we strong enough? It's like, okay, this is a goalpost. Like, when can you ever be truly strong enough? When would you ever feel comfortable and fully safe of pushing privacy? I don't think that can ever be reached. Like, there's always going to be risk. There's always going to be problem. But here we are, guys. We have one of probably the strongest country in the world when it comes to economics, although we are, horribly in debt and all that stuff. But you know what I'm saying? We have a position now for freedom. We should push this now. I think the time is now. And even if it backfires on us, even if it blows up, we will have set the precedent. We will have set the wheels in motion. We have the stone will be rolling, and people will be thinking about this, and people will hear our arguments, and they will juxtapose them with the government saying, and these mindless Bitcoin people who just want, who think Monero is a shit coin. Okay, that is when the competitive marketplace of ideas is going to go into overdrive. So yes, I'm worried, man. I'm always worried about this stuff, but we got to push it now. Let's do it now. not just to pump our bags or worry about our bags or whatever, but this is just a principle that we have to do, guys. That's how I feel about it. I don't, if anyone else can pipe up.
I do want to add something to it. Well, I guess the first things first. There's no privacy on THORChain coming anytime soon, right? It's not today. It's not tomorrow, right? We're all just talking in theoreticals right now, right? I would imagine the soonest it would occur is in a year or two type thing. So we still do have time. Nothing is urgent. I do kind of agree that, like, maybe we're not decentralized enough. Maybe if they really want to attack the network, if they could, type thing. But that's one thing I do agree with you, Peach, is will we ever be ready? Like, will we ever be comfortable or at that point? Maybe it's, we may just have to, like, plug our nose and jump in, right? And what could happen is, by introducing privacy, that could actually help us decentralize quicker, because that could attract a whole new audience of the good, honest people, right? That, not criminals, but people who do understand the importance and value of privacy, and the real users. And maybe that would actually help quicken decentralization and protect us. And then look at my protocol. If they're introducing Zcash, well, mine is definitely smaller than THORChain, but they obviously feel comfortable enough with Zcash. So I wonder if they've gone through this thought process or not. I wonder if they have any concerns, if they think they're decentralized enough. Be curious to know where they stand.
So where do you think that all the node operators are on the same page with this stuff? Because that feels like the biggest question. You want to have these discussions either like this, but don't want to be hit with another hack and then having a debate. It's just, yeah. I don't know.
Oh, you're right. Like, well, to be frank, I'm, as a node operator, and I'm an outspoken one, and I do believe bigly in privacy. Let's say it was on the table today, I'd probably say, you know what, guys, let's just give it some time. Like, let's give it, like, we gotta let the dust settle a lot of stuff here. And then
exactly, like, what's the rush, right? Like, there's gonna be so many hacks, and there's gonna be you want to be in a situation where it doesn't seem feasible to actually,
yeah,
like right now it's so obviously because not even 6 months ago we've had some, like, I don't know, keys being burned. The perception is that a small amount of people, I don't know whether that's right or not, that's my perception, is that there's a very small amount of people really calling the shots. In effect, I know that it's not that, but I think that there's some very competent people in this with a lot of influence. It's just like how it's kind of come down. And I don't think that, that they're actually waiting for another 6 months or 8 months before you die on that hill. I don't know. Look, maybe this isn't going to come up because maybe there's not going to be enough hack in the next 6 months or whatever. But I think it's really, really important to do war games behind the scenes. And I messaged JP about it. As I say, you got to at least have those discussions before the shit hits the fan. Because if you had like half the node operators, well, I'm not going to jail for this or whatever, then, or not even risking it. And the other problem is that all of this stuff is so arguable at the moment. You're not going to go to a lawyer that's going to say you're good on this or you're not good. No one's going to say that. So the node operator is going to be in a situation where it's like no one can even give you legal advice as to where you really stand on this.
Yeah,
I agree.
That is such a problem because people are not thinking like that, because you got a family or whatever. You're like, well, people don't want to. What's the chances? You go to a lawyer, they're not even going to give you chances. It'll be an international event, and you've got the U.S. government potentially, maybe or maybe not, coming after you. What the hell, man? Like, that's the situation. That's the actual nuts and bolts of the situation. All the philosophy behind it is all good. If I'm just bonding my rune to you, fine. Like, I can have a very, very get on my high horse about the whole thing. But that's what you really needs to be interrogated, is at the people that count, what do they think, and what do they think when the shit really hits the fan? And are they going to be standing up to, at what level are you going to be standing up to it? Because it's like a sliding scale. Like, does the US government care about like an exchange based in Asia, they get.
Yeah, I I agree with everything you said. I mean, these are all great suggestions and great, and the thing that I just don't understand about your argument, the first principle that I think you're missing is that, the shit's already hit the fan. We're already there. Like it's done. I mean, look at the world, guys. Look at the world. Is it becoming more stable or less stable? Is the world getting more freedom or less freedom? I don't think there's really much of an advantage to waiting. Now, you can say whatever you want when it comes to war games, but I don't know how you war game something that's truly unknowable. You can't know what the node operators are going to do, even if they say they're going to behave a certain way. You can't contingent any type of behavior or model after that. At this point, we just got to do it. It's the and go ahead.
Sorry, I just think I think I suppose I don't think it's crazy the war game. Like it's about how much pressure you're willing to, how much pressure.
Docs, hey Docs,
Hey,
Docs,
brother,
can you slow down for a sec? Your mic, there's something wrong. You're cutting in and out.
Sorry. Just fix it. I'll get back on.
No worries, brother. I know what you're trying to say. I think I knew what you're trying to say, and your
Well-
point's valid. Go ahead, Kenton.
I say if he can come back, maybe he'll just fix and come back. We'll let him finish.
Yeah,
Yep.
sorry, man. No, I don't think it's that. I don't think that these scenarios are that crazy, or where it's going to get tested is when the law gets involved, right? I mean, or am I missing? Am I missing that? That's my perception of the problem that you face. It's only a problem when there's a.
Hello, guys. I just want to make a quick comment.
Oh, who's speaking?
If you give me a second, I live under a tyrannical dictatorship in Venezuela. I just want to tell you how important the ability of privacy and the ability to stay anonymous is. When certain things come up. Just a quick comment, but it's really important. Yeah.
God bless you, sir. God bless you. Thank you for coming up and saying that. That's what I'm fighting for you, bro. I'm fighting for you. Yeah, I'm an American. I don't care. I love all people on this planet. I want everyone to be free. Okay, guys. And Docs, I don't know if you can hear me, brother. You kind of cut out, so we didn't cut you off or anything. I'm not sure what happened there, but we got to free this man. And there's millions and millions of people like him, various families, people who want to have hope in a future and all that stuff. This is what we're doing, guys. You cannot ask for permission to do this. This is the right thing. And yes, I know philosophical, and I'm getting all emotional and things like that. But at the end of the day, the first principles, the merit of what we're doing is firmly on our side. Now, whether or not the public is going to understand that is just a means of time and effort. Okay, so if we do the Zcash thing, let's say there's a big freak out. Let's just say Maya Protocol could pause it. Just say, that's how I envision. They pause it, and then we have a conversation. Like, what does this mean, right? Or whatever. I don't know how it's actually going to spin out, but we have to start the conversation sooner rather than later. And if we do that, the facts are firmly on our side. We will win the marketplace of ideas. But until we get privacy going, get a first taste of it, the Bitcoiners, other people, random normies, they're not going to start this conversation. So we have to expedite this. The faster we do this, the faster we can achieve our ultimate goal. That's how I see it.
Well, can I just add to Doc's what he was saying? So I understand where he was coming from. I'm sure he agrees with us on the importance of privacy. He's just thinking about the practicality of rolling it out. And because he's right. Like, let's say THORChain or Maya, but let's just stick with THORChain for now. So we unroll some privacy, and some developers and node operators do get it, air quote, basically get taken to court or something, get threatened. They may ultimately win at the end of the day, on the laurels of free speech, privacy is important, and blah blah blah, and the case will get thrown out. But they'll actually still have endured the punishment. Like, the punishment isn't like actually being convicted at the end of the trial and going to jail. The punishment is being dragged through a trial and spending a countless money on lawyers and stress, going to courts, whatever. Maybe you're under house arrest, I don't know. That's the punishment, right? And so that's how they would get us or get somebody. And so even though at the end they still may be uh, proven legally innocent, it's that few year process to get there that would that hurts people. I do think about that, and I agree with you where he's coming from. I think it's a valid concern, valid risk. Um, so, but I don't think that takes away from we all agree privacy is the end goal. It is necessary. We should get there. We ultimately are going to have to take that risk.
Yeah, and Juggernaut, I'm going to get you in just a second, but guys, that argument though, it just never ends. It'll never end. And look at the world. Is it getting better or worse? You just at some point you just got to go for it. You know what I mean?
You're right. You
scary,
can't you can't comply yourself out of tyranny. You're absolutely right.
Right. It's a hard situation, guys. I don't like it. It makes me uncomfortable. But I really want this. See, all the arguments being made just go to show how brave Maya Protocol is being right now. I really want that point hammered home. This is a very admirable act that they're doing, and I just want everyone to be ready and ready to rally behind them and to really push this argument. That was my main focus of this space, was to really just put that out there because the app layer is the biggest news right now. It's so incredibly awesome, and I'm so excited. But there is a more fundamental and deeper struggle that's going to happen. The 0-1 with the app layer is just unbelievably next level amazing. But in order for the world to truly appreciate and enjoy the app layer, Maya Protocol is going to set in motion the precepts to make the world in a manner that can use it and not worry about and persecuted or subjugated. Juggernaut, go ahead, buddy.
Well, hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
Hey, brother.
Oh, well, first, nice to be there. And nice to talk with you all. I will try to stay pragmatic. I have the same opinion for years, and I didn't change it. I will try to explain. The base layer THORChain cannot allow itself one single point of failure. Integrating Monero to THORChain is a point of failure because certain Donald Trump put the CIA on the ass of Monero, so it's a point of failure. It doesn't mean that it's impossible to work with private chain. Of course, it's possible. But since THORChain became the leader with Chainflip, the apparition of Chainflip and Maya Protocol, this position means that it must stay invulnerable. You see, we can let Maya Protocol, if I remember well of the white paper, Eric maybe will confirm that, with Aztec, there will be 5 different stablecoin, including one private. With RUJI network, we have several possibilities to integrate private chains with maybe not Chainflip, but with MOCA, same. There are several possibilities of several app layers which can use THORChain, which can stay the liquidity provider, the blockhouse, indestructible. You see what I mean? No one single point of failure, no surface attack. Doesn't mean I hate private chain, of course not. But it's a vulnerability for with the THORChain position, the volume we are doing, it's a point of failure. You see what I mean? It's my opinion.
Yeah, you're worried about maybe acting privacy hurting the base layer, causing volumes to decrease, being a point of failure, nodes not making enough money to run the infrastructure, and the various issues and problems that come with that. Yeah, this is a risk. Yeah, there's a risk at the end of the day. I agree. But I don't know. It's just me, you guys. I'm hopelessly invested in THORChain and Maya protocol. And if something bad were to happen to both protocols, I would be hurting for a while. But at the end of the day, I hear someone like Amal Wari, or I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong, come up here, and I know what's more important, right? I mean, I like making money. I love it. I've done pretty well in the stock market at times, and it was a great feeling. But I know all of that's for naught if we don't succeed here. And it's something that it just keeps me up at night. I think about all the time, trying to keep myself, keep my spiritual side strong, and why am I here and why am I doing this? And ultimately, there's just far greater reasons for me to be invested in THORChain and Maya protocol, or RUJI or MOCA, than just the green arrow. So with that, guys, I have to go. Kenton, I just want to thank you guys very much for speaking. I wish I didn't have this board function, but it is what it is. Before I go, guys, please share the space. Come up and ask questions. It's open forum. You can talk about anything you want. We don't believe in censorship. We believe in that. But thanks, Kenton. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thank you. It's always great having you. And please, if anybody wants to come up and chat, come help me, because Patriot does a lot of help. It's hard for me to do this by myself. But we'll try and do this again next weekend, hey?
Yeah, raise your bond, guys. Raise the bond. Bond your damn rune. Okay, we're winning. We're doing so good. We're gonna go to 107 and tomorrow. Like, I think it's like a day and 9 hours or something like that. So it's gonna happen. Bond your rune. We're winning. Let's get the security budget. Let's get RUJI going. We're doing great things, guys. Thanks again. Everyone have a great, blessed day. Bye-bye.
You too. Take care, man. Yeah, if someone's trying to get up to speak, but I haven't accepted you, spaces can be glitchy and I don't see it. So maybe maybe I should look at the comments right now. Put in a comment or something and I'll manually add you. I was thinking about privacy. And I just have some more thoughts now, like more from a philosophical point of view. Where I think, some people have a really hard time, I guess, accepting it or acknowledging that it's important. Freedom is a function of choice, right? So the more choice you have, the more freedom you have, right? So if you're in jail and you're locked up in a cell, you have no choice, right? You have very limited choices at your disposal. If you're out walking around, let's say it's end of the world, or the only person in the world, and in theory you have unlimited freedom. There's no one stopping you from doing anything. You can do whatever you want. You are still a slave to gravity, right? It's you don't have a choice about that. So freedom is a function of choice. Privacy is also a function of choice, in that someone with privacy, you can choose to share what you want with others. Whatever secrets you have, your body, right? We all wear clothes, right? You choose who to share your body with. So privacy is also a function of choice, which makes, and then if you do the math, freedom is a function of privacy. So the more privacy you have, the more freedom you have. And it's actually, when you can start thinking about it like that, and how little privacy we have in the world today, it just goes to show how unfree we are. And I would actually argue the average person demands to be unfree. They don't want privacy, which is scary, and why we're in this world we're in today. But I do agree with Patriot that how important privacy is, and I do have high hopes that crypto will make it mainstream, make it important. People will appreciate it. Because where we're going, like, if we keep losing privacy, like, think about it this way: if you're in your bedroom and you had a camera in there videotaping everything you did, you would act differently. If you had a camera in your bathroom videotaping everything you did, you would act differently. Like these are very, private spaces for us where we, feel free to do what we want. Um, when we lack that privacy, we change our behaviors. And this is what's scary about like a CBDC, about all the data collection on Web2, is that without that privacy, it actually starts affecting our behavior. And we're giving the data and the information to other people who aren't on our side, to then further manipulate us and try and trick us. So you go down a really dark path, and arguably we're in it, we're living this, right? So privacy is how we stop all that, and we regain agency, regain control, regain our freedom. um, but I think that's only really, maybe you guys understand that. I don't think the average person will. But that's ultimately what we're trying to do here. I hear some background noise. Somebody
Kenton,
trying to say something?
yeah, it's me. I was just gonna chip in because, you mentioned the key word here is uh, choice. So privacy, it's not needed for everything on every single aspect of our lives, but the fact that we can have privacy is the important part. So the moment we don't have options, then it becomes a dictatorship or a cypherpunk kind of scenario where you're forced to do whatever the system or whatever the powers that be want you to do. So that's what I love about how the cross-chain space is evolving right now, because you have THORChain who has certain blockchains, and then you have Maya who has some others, and then you have a couple of others protocols integrating other tokens, but in the end you can choose which one you want to use. And also the protocols are tackling different fronts. And what I mean by this is, if Maya has Zcash, then maybe Thorchain doesn't have to worry about that privacy layer, because Thorchain can handle other things that Maya cannot. And I do know that this was one of the main foundations that Maya was built in. Let's tackle what Thorchain can't, won't, or maybe not at the moment will tackle, so that we can, instead of cannibalizing, or instead of competing, let's work together and let's work as two trains going the same path. And I think that's the main thing. Users, crypto users, and in the end everyone in the world has to be able to transact privately cross chain without having to tell anyone what they're doing, or without any government saying telling them, hey, give us this piece of information, or force handing the protocol to give them information, etc. So I just wanted to double down on that. It's the fact that we can have the choice of being private, not that we have to be private on everything. And if people do not want to do that, or do not want to use that because they have their own beliefs, that's okay. But we have to have the power of making the decision of going private.
Absolutely. And then that's what Zcash is, right? Like that's how you can, privacy isn't, you have to choose the privacy side of Zcash, right? Otherwise it's public, right? And so maybe that's how it'll be fine. Maybe it should be fine on Maya. They hopefully don't have to worry about anything, because they'll be dealing with the public side of Zcash, and it's up to once somebody has the Zcash in their wallet, they can then turn on the privacy and go and transact on it, which has nothing to do with Maya. So I like to think that they'll be totally fine. There shouldn't be any issues there.
Yeah, I think that's the way that works. And actually, right now, MOCA and a couple of other front ends already have Zcash, and we have the public version. And there's still a few things to roll so that we can have the private one. But in the end, it's up to the user to decide. You can toggle a button, or you can take a box and say, I want this to be private or not. And that's okay. And yes, just like you say, as far as I understand, Maya will not be liable on any extension, because they'll Maya is tapping into the Zcash um, architecture, not using it as native. So
Yeah.
there's not going to be an issue there.
Yeah, like the privacy is occurring off chain, off of Maya. So like, because the way this is why there's no Monero pool on THORChain or Maya for that matter, because the way they both work is they have to read the individual blockchains of each token, right? And witness and observe the transactions. Well, you can't do that on Monero. So you in order for Monero to work on THORChain and Maya, you basically have to reverse the privacy aspect of it, because how do you confirm that a Monero swap went through or not? And but whereas with Zcash, because there is a public side of it, public ledger, they can observe that, and they can observe a swap, a transaction has gone through, and they can settle and whatnot. So everything is still public. Now this is just like the whole Bybit ETH going through THORChain, right? Everything is still public. Everything is still traceable. The same thing will be true with Zcash on Maya. Everything will be public. Everything will be traceable from this happening on Maya. But once a user actually has Zcash in their wallet, and then they go turn on privacy and go do whatever they want, well, that privacy is now occurring on the Zcash blockchain. That has nothing to do with Maya. So that's, in theory, that's how they should be isolated and separate, and not. And Maya should be okay. Shouldn't have. Hopefully, doesn't have anything to worry about.
Guys, I just want to make one last comment. I've never in my life thought the big bad wolf was going to come knock on my door. So being able to have the tools and stay ahead of the curve just in case is very important, because you're never 100% sure when that's going to happen to anybody else anywhere else in the world.
Yeah, that's actually, I assume you're in Mexico, since the accent. And someone else mentioned Venezuela. Alex, when he was talking about privacy, he mentioned, or was it somebody else mentioned, knowing Russians that got debunked, a couple of years ago there. Like, a lot of the whole conversation on privacy, lots of times centers around the United States, right? In U.S. persons. Who don't necessarily appreciate what it's like to live around the rest of the world, where having financial sovereignty is much more important. And so that's another thing I wonder too, is like, can we still rely on the unbanked? These other several billion people around the world, is there going to be high enough demand from them for privacy and self custody to really get crypto going? I hope so. Interesting to see. Anyone else want to come up and talk? I'm having a hard time keeping the conversation going. Or any other speakers, if you want to unmute and join in?
Patriot Sounds mentioned something that was a good fit to continue the conversation onto marketing, because he mentioned something very important. So he said that right now we have the rails, but we don't have the use cases or the product market fit for dApps to actually use THORChain, Maya, and on another layer, RUJI. So what I was gonna say, and I spent yesterday thinking about this. So I think that one of the main factors right now that THORChain has in general is that most of the dApps built on top of it are cross-chain modules. So users can just go to a front end and swap assets, maybe do a little bit of DeFi here and there, pool assets, etc., get yield, blah blah blah. But there's not really a lot of dApps built that actually give the user a reason to stay for an hour doing things, or you know doing things that actually use the protocol, but without them doing the just the swaps. And RUJI is actually opening a huge door for this, but at the same time, and this is exactly what we're doing with MOCA. So we are not just saying, hey, come here and swap tokens. We are giving the user a reason to do something on their daily lives, and then using the rails of THORChain to do it. So if someone wants to go buy a coffee and they have crypto and they want to pay on certain token, or the business accepts specific tokens, they can just go with the wallet and pay. And they're using THORChain in backend. So what I would like to tell people in the audience is, if you are in contact with any front end or with any developer that is part of THORChain, try to shift a little bit the conversation, and bring the attention, bring into their attention that yes, the cross-chain swap modules are great, but having an extra layer of things to do for the user so that they cross-chain swap without them even knowing they're doing it, that's the next step. So right now we are a little bit on the kind of the foundation layer where swaps are great, but then how do we make users interact with THORChain without them even knowing they are interacting with THORChain? You know what I mean, Kenton?
Yeah, absolutely. And I like what you guys are doing. So that's, for me, is like kind of like ultimately my end goal with THORChain, is that, once crypto actually really is being used, like to buy and sell stuff, more in commerce, whatever, um, you're going to have THORChain, as part of that, in the background base layer, base liquidity, facilitating all these cross-chain swaps. Um, so I'm actually curious, Eric. Do you guys have any success already with merchants integrating MOCA, or customers, people asking their merchants to adopt it so they can start spending crypto? Like, have you got actual use cases yet, or has it been a struggle?
No, so here's the thing, and this is a little bit of marketing 101. When crypto projects start building, like for example, MOCA has been building for a year, a little bit over a year, I think, but we haven't launched the products yet. We're doing marketing right now, and we're going to spaces, and we are trying to increase the awareness and all of this, because most crypto projects, they go to market just 1 month before they launch the product, and it's like, okay, so we built this for a year, and now that we're launching, we are actually doing marketing and creating a community, nurturing it. There's going to be a token, blah blah blah, but there's no real community behind, because they never tried to extend or grow that community and that awareness beforehand. So right now we do not have the product yet. We do have a very, very active roadmap for the next 6 months, and we are actually launching the first business. So MOCA has 4 sections. One of them is business, where people will be able to pay each other and pay businesses both online and in real life. And we're starting with that part of the roadmap in a few months, once we have first the token live, the pools live, and our main product is going to be, I can't really say a lot, but we do have an alpha testing stage that starts in a week. And if anyone wants to be part of it, they can do it. We're going to test this hero feature that will tie everything together on MOCA, and then use THORChain and Maya and Chainflip to tie that all together in the back. But to be to be straight to your question, because I just gave a lot of context, but no, we do not have a proof of concept yet. Well, we do have the proof of concept, not the proof of work, because we are right now trying to increase awareness that we're going to do it, so that when we launch it, we actually have people going to businesses and saying, hey, I known this for 3 months, it works, I know the people behind, I want to invite you to accept, let's say, USDC, THORChain, Rune, and Cacao, or maybe all of the package. Do you want in? You're not going to pay fees, you're not going to be liable of a lot of things that the credit cards and the normal operations have on you, and at the same time you're going to increase your customer base, because we also have a lot of people that are already part of our community, that already have a MOCA wallet, that already know crypto, that will be able to buy in your business. So you're not going into an empty space that it's not going to be worth it for you. So to be too long didn't read, we want to have a user base before we launch the products, so that when we launch the business side, the businesses can say, oh yeah, so there's 2,000 people that can actually buy things with crypto in my store. I'm in.
Nice. So is MOCA going to give the business the ability to settle in fiat, or they only be able to accept crypto, and then it's up to them to go convert that crypto to fiat?
You know, this is something that's very interesting, and it actually opens up the door for something else. So you want in crypto to create circular economies where someone buys with crypto in your store, and then the store can actually pay their suppliers or their vendors or whatever with crypto as well, and then the vendors can pay their employees with crypto, and then the employees go buy things in stores with crypto, and then you create a circular economy where they don't even have to touch fiat to go around on their daily things. So at first, our approach is to try to create these circular economies. We are gonna have these option for businesses to off ramp. Yes, they will have to go through another hoop, because right now the user goes to the store, pays with crypto, which actually right now works.
Oh, good. That's
We already tested it, but in order for the business to off ramp, we're gonna have options for that, so that it's not gonna be as at first it's not gonna be a straight transaction, like, oh yeah, you pay me with crypto and I receive fiat. It's not gonna happen right now. Maybe next year.
Okay. Are there like certain like cities or industries or anything that you're going to try and target to try and like, that have a good chance of creating that circular economy that where it can actually take off? Or is it you're just going to like a shotgun approach wherever people are, whatever businesses will do it? Do you have any strategy there?
Well, you always have these. So when you have a product, you always try to go as wide as possible and see what sticks and where it sticks, and then you double down on that. So, for example, we launch worldwide, but let's say Venezuela, it's a highly unbanked country with many people who are already in crypto, and they are interested in creating this circular economy. So it might get adopted there, and then we can create a campaign in Venezuela, a marketing campaign in social media, etc., telling them, hey, if you want to onboard your local business, you can get a cut from whatever they transact, and at the same time, you will be helping your fellow citizens to that are unbanked to be able to access some types of goods, etc., etc. But at the same time, we're going to do online campaigns worldwide, so that everyone knows that we exist and that there's the option. But like I said, where it sticks the most, it's where we're going to double down. We do have
Cool.
a big marketing budget, but we do have to be very wary that marketing budgets go empty very fast if you are not careful with how you spend that money.
Yeah, for sure. Well,
one last word, if you
yeah,
with your permission.
good, Juggernaut.
I'm sorry. I just I have to go. I forgot to say two things. First, when I talk about privacy, I tell about several opportunities and ways, and forgot one thing, one project which is here for years. It's named ShapeShift, of course, with Eric Ruiz behind. So it's not nothing, and I'm super happy to see Eric with MOCA because it's a great guy, ultra motivated, and it's a brain. That's all. Wow.
Awesome.
So I hope to see MOCA achieve, and if I may help, I'll do everything. Thank you, guys, and thank you, Kenton. Really, thank you to do these weekly spaces, which are necessary.
You're welcome. Thanks for jumping in. Nice to hear your voice, Juggernaut. It's been a while. Yeah, you're welcome. 13 Heavens jumped up. I don't know if you want to add something about Maya. It'd be great to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, let's start with MOCA for a second. I actually met with Zay. I think it was whenever Binance Blockchain Week was. A fantastic team. I won't give any spoilers that aren't already public, but that's a very exciting product, and I think it has the potential to take crypto to the next user as it as it abstracts away the complexity for the normies, because a lot of what was said on the space I agree with. The next step of crypto is making it so easy there is no difference between using your credit card and your crypto as far as the end user is concerned. And I think that's the mission of MOCA in like a really big way. So I think that's really cool, and I encourage everyone to really pay attention to what MOCA is working on, because I think it'll be very impactful for our industry. As far as Maya goes, I'm actually going to visit the core team down in Mexico next week. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of exciting talks that I can maybe share the following week. Zcash is on the way. You guys talked about that. Cardano's probably up next. Maya is very cyberpunk in a lot of ways, and I think the node base is very supportive of privacy. And I don't think we're going to see a lot of resistance from the operators. Actually, I've heard the exact opposite. I've heard a lot of them say something along the lines of, if we don't push this route, then they don't want to support the mission. So we're very pro-privacy, and I'm very excited for that. I don't know if everyone pays attention to the volume of privacy coins, but admittedly, they're not nearly as high as the general crypto space. But I would have to believe a large portion of those participants are wanting and willing to move their transactions to on-chain versus a SEX, because that kind of defeats the point of privacy if you have to KYC to move between your assets. So I'm very excited for that. And one of the 13 Heaven devs is currently focusing on that integration exclusively right now. So we're getting close to the finish line, and hopefully we'll see that manifest within the next month or so.
I think you're right. If you mind me jumping in there about the volume on privacy coins, like it's I think the reason they're small is because, well, how many centralized exchanges actually list and trade privacy coins, right? They keep delisting them. They keep not supporting them. That's why volumes are low. And so I've always wondered or thought that you get privacy coins on a real DEX. In theory, in my mind, the volumes in privacy coins could be huge, if not the hugest. You know, after stable coins, it could be just as big. You know,
yeah.
like, yeah.
I completely agree. I think there's that barrier because the people who want to use privacy coins the most also don't want to KYC, and that doesn't mean they're criminals. Privacy is a human right. But I think once there are good decentralized rails and we see a little bit more uptick in adoption and the assets become a little bit more stable, I'm right with you. I think next to Bitcoin and stablecoin, privacy coins should have some of the best product market fit out there, because at the end of the day, even if you're not doing something illicit, and I hope most participants aren't doing anything illicit, privacy is still something you want, right? You don't want your neighbor to know how much money you have and how much you're spending. You don't want the business to know, right? You don't want to go to the coffee shop and have them know you're sitting on 100 Bitcoin. That would be incredibly unsafe, right? You're opening yourself up to a wrench attack. So I'm in full agreement there. I think once the rails are set up, we're going to see a slow ramp up and eventually a very quick ramp up. And I can't imagine a world where privacy isn't fundamental, even if it takes the front ends and the infrastructure to opt into it for its users, because no one who's building in this space wants to expose their customers and their user base to risk.
Do you think having Zcash on Maya could actually introduce fungibility to Bitcoin? in that somebody creates an app, whatever, where you throw in a Bitcoin, a swap of Maya is done to Zcash, then that token is moved within Zcash privately to a new address. That Zcash is then swapped back to Bitcoin through Maya, and that Bitcoin gets spit out to the user, but it's now a clean trail. That user now has a Bitcoin without a transaction history, because it's been, or it stops, or it goes back to the Zcash transaction through Maya. Do you think that something like that could occur?
Yeah, of course. So like Bitcoin with a broken transaction history. Yeah, 100%. I believe that's where we're going. It'll take one of two things. It'll either take an asset like Zcash, who's going to be connected to something like Maya, to achieve quite a bit of stability, so a user can sit in it for a day, a week, before switching back, or a huge amount of volume. Either of those situations is going to create an environment where you can safely do that, and you can break the transaction history successfully, right? The reason it takes one of those two things is right now Zcash is a little bit volatile, and it doesn't have so much volume. So if I switch directly into Zcash today and 1 hour later I switch into Bitcoin, then it's going to be relatively traceable for like anyone who knows what they're doing. But if you're seeing hundreds of millions of dollars flow through Maya every day, then no problem at all. You can do that swap, and as soon as you have block finality on Zcash, you can swap back, and there will be so much volume that it's indistinguishable as long as you transfer back not the exact same amount, and then vice versa. If Zcash is stable enough that you feel comfortable, the users feel comfortable sitting in Zcash for a week, then same thing can be accomplished. After a week, you transfer back not the exact same amount, and the transaction history is broken. And like I think a combination of those two things is definitely going to happen. Which one is first, I can't say, but 100% we're going there.
So perversely, then, that's what protects you guys, keeps you guys safe. That okay, fine, somebody maybe can do that with 10 or $1,000, but they can't do it in size. And that's ultimately what gets attention from the authorities, right? Is size. So that gives Maya time to grow. It gives time for the liquidity to grow on Zcash and Bitcoin. And then by the time it actually is, if that does happen, being used by the wrong people we don't want to support, but by that point, it's big enough and safe enough that it's no longer an issue. So that's actually interesting. So as the volumes grow, so should the safety of it all, right?
Exactly. Like you said, I think day one, even month one, maybe even year one, there's probably not going to be enough stability in the Zcash asset or volume through the Maya pools to allow for truly large amounts of funds. Like maybe you could move 100K or 10K, and the authorities really aren't so worried about that. You're not going to see a huge lawsuit about that. So I think that's like a non-issue for Maya in the early days. And as you said, I do think Zcash is going to end up being a major integration for Maya, and I would hope, I would love to see that over the next year, over the next 2 years, 3 years, that will reinforce Maya's position, draw more node operators, decentralize the network further, and make it more robust. Like THORChain's in a rough spot right now. Like I think the market cap is about 400 million. I think that'll change drastically. I think THORChain is a $100 billion asset easily. And in a world where THORChain is a $100 billion asset, what's Cacao sitting at, right? What's the Maya network sitting at? Is it sitting at 10% of that? Is it sitting at 30% of that? And by the time we get there, we're robust enough, just like THORChain is today, to weather that sort of thing. Because realistically, I know the node operators in THORChain have a lot of liability, and like some of them are very worried, but I believe THORChain could handle some aspects of privacy today. I think they're robust enough too. I understand why they don't. So when Maya gets to that level, I'm going to apply the same metric to that, and I'm going to say Maya will be robust enough to take that.
I think it ultimately comes down to the will of the core developers and some of the more public node operators. They want the heat or not. They don't want to take that chance. Whereas, like you mentioned Maya being more cypherpunk. They aren't scared of the heat, right? It is a philosophical thing at the end of the day, what you're willing to fight for. and not criticizing anybody who isn't willing to take up that fight.
Of
It's
course.
just, just different. We have different beliefs. Um, well, that's cool to hear. That's great. Eric, you had your hand up. I don't know if you wanted to add something.
Yeah, hey, 13 Heavens. I do have questions. So in both of these scenarios, that's more for the user, right? But for example, if someone uses Zcash, there's deniability that, hey, this is not my account. Like, yeah, it might have been the same amount, etc. But there's no, like, if you go to a legal standard, there's no way to trace both wallets, the outgoing wallet and then the incoming wallet. So this is more for the user's safety or for the user's peace of mind, right? But the moment they use Zcash, they effectively, like, it's still going to be traceable. For example, if right now with only $1 million in volume, I trade 1 Bitcoin for Zcash, and then the other way around, people are going to know it's me, but they cannot really prove it, or they cannot really say, oh yeah, it's definitely you.
Yeah, of course. There's definitely deniability with Zcash even at these levels. It would be completely obvious if like North Korea, for example, moved 1.5 billion through. But if we're talking about an individual level, there's total deniability. And with like, I don't fully understand Zcash proofs, but my understanding is, as you've said, there is no way to prove it unless you expose your private keys.
Okay, yeah. I was wondering that because yes, you don't want anyone to trace that, so that's why you wait for volume or for stability. But in the end, if you're in a hurry, and I don't know, let's just say a hypothetical that you're trying to hide anything, then there's no way to trace that back to you. Well, they can trace it, but they cannot pinpoint it to you and say this is definitely you.
Yeah, and to take it one step further, if we're talking about an individual level, it would be easy enough to send 1 Bitcoin through and then send 10 transactions back to get through Bitcoin. You're eating a bit of fees, but at that point you're indistinguishable as long as you've done it properly.
We had Zay jump up on stage.
Hi everyone, how's it going? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Good, how are you, man?
Oh, perfect. Thanks, Eric, for explaining everything so well, first of all. And I just want to comment on what 13 Heavens is saying. And I agree with him. And that's going to be the road everybody's going to go. Yes, we're missing more volume on the private tokens and protocols. But I think it has a lot to do on the UI part of it. Like, it's hard to do it correctly. It's hard to use it. It's hard to find them even. Like, they're not everywhere, and that's part of why there's not a lot of volume. I think that the current crypto space right now was good for people that wanted privacy and wanted to be off the grid or whatever for like 5 years ago or maybe a little bit more. But now that's why privacy coin entered the game, and they are way better. So in MOCA, we're trying to make this current crypto experience available and seamless for the normies. But the next step for us will be how can we bring the private coins easy for the crypto guys. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense to me.
Yeah, so for the first step that Eric was talking about, it's gonna be like a beta launch of many of the products. That's gonna be the mid step on bringing the crypto guys to the products. Then we're gonna go and bring the normies not far away, and then we're gonna spend a lot of time designing new UIs for the private coins. How can we integrate them into MOCA? And I think that's not gonna be only us. That's gonna be a lot of the UIs around the space that are gonna focus on that, especially with Zcash in Maya. That will be great because currently you have to find another way to exchange them basically. But it's an issue to think how can I do that and have like the legal sustain to not being followed by any law in any country just because somebody's using our app as a front layer for doing something sketchy, for example. Like I'm not touching your tokens, I'm not touching anything. I just letting you use somebody else's protocol or system, but maybe I'm the face. Like MOCA could be the face of it, and everybody knows that you can do that through MOCA, even though it's not being done by MOCA. And we have to go careful about that and spend a lot of money. Like Eric was talking about the marketing budget, and it's great. Like you need to have it if you want to grow, but there's I think a huge budget that we need to spend in law, in lawyers, and trying to have legal consultants and ask them if we do this, are we liable or not? And that's expensive also. So not talking just about MOCA, but if you want uh, safety or whatever other, I just say chipset because I see the picture right there. But if you want to you want to have private coins in other ecosystems or DEX or whatever, use their product, help them get some revenue so that they can then pay for all these lawyers and stuff, and be vocal about it. I know there's a lot of really vocal people in the crypto space about everything. Like there's people way into meme coins. There are people way into privacy, like searching heavens is right now, and most of us. But encourage others that are not as vocal to be part of it. Just speak what they have in mind because that's powerful. Because if if UI layer sees that, yeah, privacy is amazing and we need it, but there's only 3 people that speak every day about it and nobody else, maybe they think, well, that's going to be used by 3 people, even though the implications of having it can help or affect most of us or the whole world if you want. So yeah, that's my recommendation for everyone. I'm not gonna go into MOCA again because Eric already did. Thanks, Eric, for being uh, everywhere in my behalf and behalf of MOCA. But
You're welcome.
feel free to ask a question if you want. Huh? Feel free.
Thanks.
I can ask questions.
Thanks for that, Zay. I wanted to actually comment on your lawyer thing. Um, it's not, you could spend millions and millions of dollars on lawyers and go absolutely nowhere. Like you talk to 5 lawyers, you're gonna get 5 different answers. And they can come up with all kinds of opinions for you, opinion letters and whatever. And that's great, but it doesn't, ultimately it doesn't, it's not a get out of jail free card. Like the authorities can still come after you. They can still, you know, I believe tyranny is real. You know, they can still kind of arbitrarily decide what they want to do, take you to court, and it's only once you go to court that you really truly are testing the law as it's written, and even then, you could end up with a judge who is, you know, a bit crooked basically or biased. Well, let's say not. Let's say not. Let's say you end up with a judge who actually is logical and fair, reading the law as is. Um, that's your ultimate test of the law when you go through to that court process. And you know, getting lawyers to give you recommendations doesn't. It's not a all of a sudden you're, you know, you won't get charged. You won't go to court. Um, that's just their opinion. You know, they're going to spend a few hours on it. Maybe they spend 50 hours on it, and then that's just one country, one jurisdiction. You know, I'm assuming apps like MOCA, you know, they want to be all over the world. You know, there's 190 countries out there, and you're gonna go find lawyers in every country to go through. Like, it's just, it's impossible. You'll never do it. And that's why. And then this is just in crypto. This is all business. Like you just at some point as an entrepreneur, like what F it, I'm just gonna go do it. And then, you know, don't beg for permission, beg for forgiveness. Sorry, don't ask for permission, beg for forgiveness. And you just kind of have to have that attitude because you try and get lawyers to tell you what to do and make you feel comfortable, and you'll spend a fortune on people. Basically, what they'll do eventually, if you talk to enough lawyers, they'll eventually just talk you out of it, and you've just spent all this money have somebody tell you not to do it. So I just kind of I want to caution you of that path, because it generally doesn't go well.
Yeah, thanks. Like I didn't mean like go and ask for a get out of jail card, but just by if you want to publish a crypto app in Apple, for example, they ask for a legal opinion. That's needed, and that's expensive. And then if you, especially if you're just started, that's expensive. And sometimes if your legal opinion is not for the best lawyers in the US or in the world, they will ask one for each country. So you have to do that just to start. So yeah, that adapts. That's what I was talking about.
Okay, yeah, that I get, I understand. But I understand that. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, and then imagine because of some weird precedent, if you have a private token in your app, you have to have another legal memo because they don't want to carry the responsibility of publishing your app in the iOS ecosystem. Then you have to do all that all over again. So yeah, just a little bit of maybe non-technical information, but yeah, that's the reality that we live in today. I don't like that, but that's where we live. So yeah, we have to run with it and try to get the best out of it.
You're just playing the game. It's not, you're getting the legal opinion just so you can get the app out there, and you're just trying to check the boxes. It's not that the legal opinion necessarily protects you from anyone or says you're doing anything okay. It's enough to get out there and get the app going.
Yeah, and once you're out, then you ask for forgiveness.
Yeah. 13 Heavens, did I kind of cut you off there earlier? Did you have some more that you wanted to add, go over?
Not specifically. Open to general conversation and questions. Just things are looking good at Maya. I've been loving the work that Alex has been doing with THORChain. Go ahead.
Nice. I was going to ask you, it's going back to having Zcash and Maya, and you said some validators actually signaled that they would leave if you didn't do it. Did the conversation ever come up at all about, hey, even though sounds like everyone there is pro privacy, did you guys still have the conversation like, well, yeah, these are our beliefs, but what if we do start clashing with the law? What if the three-letter agencies do come start knocking? What do we do? What do we say? Did you guys even have those conversations, or you're just like, you know what, F it, we're doing this. This is right. We're not doing anything wrong, and just looking forward?
No, we definitely had those conversations. I'm not sure if everyone saw the post that Alex made around the time of the Bybit hack and the, in air quotes, laundering through THORChain. But Alex and the original core team have essentially said this is their stance. They believe it for philosophical reasons. It's very personal to them because of where they are in South America, where there's like tyranny and like dictatorship in some countries, and that privacy is a human right. And he took it so far as saying that if we did clash with one of these three-letter agencies, and it became to the point where Maya and the core team was kind of being forced to limit privacy and enforce censorship, that he would step down and he would focus his time solely on activism in like the political space, where he would educate the public and legislators on why this is an important fundamental human right. And in the context of that, we had a discussion, and the discussion essentially concluded to, we don't think that's going to happen, but if it did happen and if he had to step down, then myself and 13 Heavens would step up as the core contributors, and they would fall back to kind of a secondary role. So we're fully aligned on this. We understand there's risks. I don't think it's going to come to that, but if it comes to that, the conversations have been had. And as far as the node operators, yeah, a few of them did actually say if we go down the path of censorship, that they wouldn't want to be participating in the network. So the Maya node operators are very aligned on the fundamental human right to privacy.
That's awesome. That's actually really inspiring to hear. I love it. And for what it's worth, like when that was happening with the Bybit stuff going through THORChain, I talked to some lawyers and law enforcement too, and the gist was at the end of it is like, well, first you'll get a cease and desist. First, the authorities come tell you you stop doing this, right? Um, and then if you don't stop, then that's when you start getting into trouble and blah blah blah. So and that's my position. Unless the Circle CEO, he said it best when I think it was actually Zach XBT he was calling him out on Twitter, and the Circle CEO said, "Listen, we're not going to front run law enforcement. If we get something by the courts, fine, we'll do it. But until then, we're not going to just arbitrarily decide, who to freeze, who to block, whatever." And that's where I stand on this too. Like if I get a court order to do something, I will. Like I'm not going to go to jail. Um, but at the same time, I'm not going to like preemptively front run the courts to the law. And, we're not doing anything wrong, basically. Um, and I think it's perverse. I feel like the tyranny in the laws, they've gotten so good at scaring people that there's way too much self-policing going on, and really, which is in a sense kind of is actually scary when you think about it like that. Like in a really free society, we should be pushing the limits and boundaries all the time. Walking that edge. Yeah, go ahead. Eric, did you have your hand up? You wanted to?
Yeah. Sorry, I I was a few steps away. So here's the thing: the power of THORChain and Maya and every open source project there is out there in crypto is that you build a community around it. So the power of THORChain lies in the community, in the people that believe in what the foundations are. The power of Maya lies on the people and the node operators that align with what the team initially started the project with in mind. So to double down on this, anything that happens to any open source project or protocol, and let's say that, like you said, there's a cease and desist, whatever, and any entity has to close down shop. The code is still out there, the community is still out there, and this is my opinion. This is entirely my own opinion. It's not MOCA's. It's not. So if something happens to Maya or THORChain, the code is there, the community is there, and we can learn from the mistakes. And if someone gets forced to get out of anything, they can just come back privately or anonymously. So, and what I mean by this is I do not think that if something happens to THORChain or Maya or any other, and node operators leave, etc., the ideals are gone, or the opportunity to push is gone. And I don't want to get a lot more into that because I know this is going to YouTube and blah blah blah. But yeah, I think that what THORChain and Maya stands for, the ideals will stay on forever, whatever happens to the protocols.
I agree, because well, we kind of saw that already happen with the Bybit stuff. We had on THORChain, we had several node operators get uncomfortable. They didn't want to, they wanted to pull out. They stopped operating their nodes, but the bond providers didn't go away. Some of them did, but a lot of them stayed, and they found new node operators. So you're absolutely right. This isn't a static system or network. It's dynamic, and there's a lot of moving pieces, and that's the benefit of the way it's designed. The decentralized nature is that we can lose a few of those pieces, and things shift around and move to fill that void, fill that gap. So I think you're actually absolutely right, Eric. Like there'll always be someone or some way to kind of fill the void and fill the gap and move in, because there's money to be made, right? Like as long as there's THORChain and Maya, like they're doing doing real things, making real money, like that's how people get paid, right? That motivates people to participate. So I completely agree with you.
Yeah, and that's exactly why MOCA is open source. Because we are not just like think that open source is the way, and then we go on and build something closed source that only we control. And that's why when we have privacy in MOCA, we will not be able to witness or to look at the transactions. It will also be private for us. So yeah,
Kind of like Proton Mail. You'll have right. Proton Mail can't read emails. Right? They just have a database of encrypted gibberish. Is that right? Am I using the right analogy from MOCA?
Yeah, they do. Maybe Zay can answer that one.
Yeah, that's exactly the same way we're gonna do it, and that's how it works right now. If you check out the few things that we save, like we have an option in the wallet that you can save the contacts in our server, but they are first encrypted in your device, then encrypted before transfer, and then encrypted on our servers. So it's gibberish, and we don't even know which one is yours. You are the only one that can pull it. So even that, we don't know which gibberish is your gibberish. So yeah, Proton is the best analogy for that, for those of you who know Proton.
Cool.
And I was gonna comment a little bit on what Eric said about the power of THORChain in Maya and all these centralized exchanges is the users, like the most benefit that people can get out of them, and the more people use it, the harder it's gonna be to bring it down, because even in the worst case scenario that something happens and it disappears, another one will pop up because the idea is gonna be there. So I think there's a lot of power and resistance from our side in being using it a lot, and having a lot of users, onboarding new users to it. And I think that's important, and that's part of the vision of our company right now. It's how can we bring value to THORChain and Maya, and how can we give value from THORChain to the users, to people that doesn't even know that THORChain exists, but get value from their product and their solution. And the more people we have using it, well, it's harder to stop, and the idea grows. And maybe if we have a million users that they don't know that they're even using THORChain, but 1% of those get interested in how this works and start looking into it and going deep down the rabbit hole, and they learn that, okay, so this is decentralized, and they start teaching themselves and learning and going into these spaces that are amazing, then the idea grows. And I think that's what we need to protect, the idea and the values of THORChain and Maya, not only the product itself.
Well said. 13 Heavens, you're going to add something?
Yeah, I had a conversation. I forget which one it was in my car. It might have been Jima, it might have been Alex, or it might have even been Azuma. But essentially, they were telling me that they had this conversation with the Zcash core devs, and then the Zcash core devs, of course, have done a lot of interactions with three-letter agencies for obvious reasons. But the conclusion that they shared with the core Maya team was, as long as the core is not running all of the infrastructure, there's not a lot they can demand of you in such an obvious way. And thankfully, the core doesn't run most of the infrastructure. I think they only run 1 or 2 nodes at most, which is such a minority of the node set, especially as it gets bigger, that it really should be a non-issue. And like THORChain, Maya doesn't have a front end. Maya is just strict infrastructure. There's governance through node consensus of a supermajority. So in my opinion, and in an opinion that is apparently shared by some of the best experts, like some of the best experts being the Zcash developers, this should be a non-issue.
Nice.
Speaking about infrastructure, so Zay and 13 Heavens mentioned that you have the infra behind and you have the front ends, and they are not correlated. Like one just uses the other one to bring a product to the masses. And this I sorry to bring it back to marketing, but I do think that THORChain, as good as an architecture that it is, I think that marketing is lacking a lot in the space, in the cross-chain space in general, because when you look at what we offer and what crypto people are looking for, it almost feels like there's a cognitive dissonance with what the market wants and what these companies are offering to them. So people are asking for privacy, people are asking for self sovereignty and complete control over their assets. But in the end, all of these centralized companies that are custodial are the ones that are, you could argue, that are winning, so to speak. And it just feels like at one point when THORChain gets their ducks in a row, well, us as a community, because THORChain cannot do that, but when we get our ducks in a row and we start doing marketing, focused marketing, both to crypto people but also to normies, the THORChain is going to explode. And just like 13 Heaven said, if THORChain is at 100 billion, where is that putting Maya in? So Kenton, I know that
Yeah.
you have a lot of pull in the community. So how can we encourage interfaces and users to start doing better marketing or marketing at all?
Yeah, actually, that's a good question. And that was actually supposed to be one of our topics for the space, but I think we just got so deep in the privacy. We'll have to save, do a deep dive on marketing for another day. But that's something I'm actively working on right now. And um, like before, like so, THORChain is a business to business product, right? We want other wallets and websites and front ends or whatever install us. Same with Maya, right? And it's up to those wallets and front ends to go communicate to their users to, hey, go use this, right? So just like MOCA, you guys are gonna be a front end for THORChain. You're gonna go communicate to the businesses and the users, hey, come install MOCA and do trade on it, right? And everything's happening in the background on THORChain and Maya, which sounds great. I think and I think that business plan is working. For THORChain, we've gotten in Trust Wallet and Ledger, access to 275 million downloads from all the wallets we have, but we only have like 50,000 users per month at best. Right? There's a huge disconnect between the the number of people THORChain has access to versus the people actually using it. And I think that's the number one problem with THORChain. Like all these issues from the last couple months. I mean, would all be meaningless if we had 1 million users per month, right? Like if we had that much more volume and revenue, rune price would be much higher. But we don't have that, and so in my opinion, in my mind, there's something wrong. There's something going on, and I think I think the problem is like the people with those apps and wallets, they just don't know. They don't know they can swap Bitcoin inside their wallet, and everyone in crypto is so used to not being able to do that. Like everyone's used to using a centralized exchange, used to using some other platform. They're not thinking about it. They're not looking for it. And for us who actually have used it and understand it, like for us, it's obvious, right? It's a no-brainer. But that's the mental hurdle we have to get over, I think, with the rest of the crypto community, and that requires some marketing, education. We got to actually explain to Trust Wallet users, hey, listen, you can open your wallet and you can swap Bitcoin. Look, this is how easy it is. So in my opinion, in my mind, that's the message we need to get out there and convert those users on the existing wallets and get the volumes up. And then that'll give us more money to play with, where we can focus on bigger picture, more broader marketing, like actually introducing people to THORChain and the Rune token, getting new investors. Look at Ripple and Cardano. Like how many times we have our normie friends, people that know nothing about crypto, ask about Cardano and Ripple. It's like, how the hell do you know about this? And it's because of marketing. They're fantastic marketing teams that just get the message out everywhere, so that it's the first crypto in these people's minds. If once THORChain and Maya become big enough and making enough money, there's no reason we can't spend the same amount of money on that kind of marketing too. And so when people come into crypto, the first thing they think about is THORChain. You know, like if I'm serious about THORChain being a top 10 token, therefore we should be top 10 in people's minds, right? Like the top 10 tokens people know about, not just the market cap. And you know, all the biggest businesses in the world, Nike, Apple, they spend like 10% of their revenues on marketing. You know, it's what got them big and it's what's keeping them big. So we definitely need to spend money on marketing, but it's, you know, I think Zay mentioned it earlier, like, or maybe it was you, Eric, I can't remember, but MOCA has a good marketing budget, but you do have to be careful how you spend it because it can just evaporate very quickly. So bringing us all back to THORChain with marketing there, what I want to do is my goal is to try and demonstrate, correlate where the marketing can be correlated to increase in volume and fees. And if we can get to the point where the fees are more than the marketing spend, now we have some positive, right? We can scale that, right? And we can justify and spending more money on marketing and get like a marketing virtuous cycle going. There's a long rant to answer your question, but I agree. There needs to be education. People need to know that these cross-chain swaps in self-custody exist, and because they don't. And we need to get that message out there, get it going.
Yeah, and I know there's a bigger. I don't even know how do you say it. I mean, English is not like my 17th language, so. But there's bigger fish to cook, I think, right now. But eventually, at one point, THORChain could even have, okay, so this percentage of fees can go to a marketing budget that projects can apply to receive co-marketing efforts. So, for example, let's just say that we are off the hook on anything, you know, more important right now that we need to use the revenue for. But at one point, let's say that we have a subprofit. I think it's the word, or like an extra money coming from fees and from the protocol treasury. And then we could say, okay, so we have $10 million. Any project that wants to do marketing, you can put in $50,000. We give you $50,000 and you promote your project or your protocol or your front end, whatever. And then you are indirectly marketing THORChain through the dApps, which is exactly what should happen right now. But of course, a lot of front ends, it's very hard to have marketing money. So when you're paying devs every month and when you're paying a lot of things that like, it's hard to say, okay, I'm gonna separate 15% of my treasury or of my runway for marketing, but it's something needed. And projects should do that, but it's hard.
Yeah, so that is, I do want to get to the point where I can go to the nodes on THORChain and ask for like a marketing fund. Just like there's a dev fund, you know, 5% of revenue goes towards developers. I want to do something similar with marketing, but especially right now, there's way too much going on. And so for now, I'm going to start with the treasury, get some money done there. Hopefully can do something that actually works. And I can take that to the nodes. Hey, listen, this is actually, you know, this is working. We're having some success. Let's keep it going. And then and if it's a percentage of revenue, then that is sustainable, right? It can, you know, the dollar amount will change, but at least there's something every month that we can go towards it. Because ultimately marketing is about consistency, right? You can't just do it for 1 month. It's got to be out there all the time. And it's a cumulative thing. And then, so if it's working, if that does work, that money is driving up volume on THORChain, it is increasing the fees. That means there's more money going towards a marketing budget, and you get that, you know, positive virtuous cycle going. And then let's just pretend I'm starting this with Trust Wallet, and then Ledger, and then some other wallets, blah, blah, blah. Well, let me back that up. Let's say you start with Trust Wallet, and Trust Wallet gets huge. We get 1 million users per month. It's great. But then all of a sudden, THORChain is now solely dependent on volumes from Trust Wallet. right? And essentially we've centralized ourselves because we're uh, um, now we're sensitive, susceptible to this one front end, right? That's more reason to take money from marketing and go start now market ledger, get the volumes up there to diversify the revenue and diversify the user base, right? And if that works on ledger, take it to another wallet and keep going. And so we want all the wallets to be scaled up, right? Um, and so bigger picture is that like, hey, you go to new THORChain can go to a new front end and say, listen, you integrate THORChain, we will help promote you and get you users because you get affiliate fees. And so we have this giant virtuous cycle of marketing going, and it's all being driven through. It's all sustainable. It's all being driven through revenues, and so that's my big plan, my big goal. Like how I'm thinking about it. But we got to start out small, find something that works, and prove it's profitable, basically. Um, and yeah, so I am thinking about that. That's how I do look at it. But it'll take time to get the point where we can really go to say a brand new small front end and offer to, hey, partner, and it won't just be about money too. It'll also be the intellectual capital of the previous marketing campaigns of what worked and what hasn't, and how to get talk to users. But right now, the low-hanging fruit is Trust Wallet and Ledger because they have so many existing users already. Whereas, so it's really easy for someone who already has a Trust Wallet to go open their app and go place a Bitcoin trade. Whereas if it's someone with like a much smaller app, a much smaller wallet, in order to really get them going, they need new users. They need new downloads. It's a much bigger ask to ask somebody to download a new wallet and load it with crypto and then go trade, right? There's a lot of steps there, a lot of friction. So I'm not saying it can't be done, but that's higher hanging fruit and we should pick that last. But that is my hope and goal, to get to that point where we can help them get them going. And even though they may have higher affiliate fees and THORChain and whatever, and we do spend money on getting them going, it inevitably benefits THORChain because we diversify our revenue base, right? We get another front end established, and it can start growing on its own. It can start spending its own money in marketing and run away with it. We're just acting like a choke on an engine. We're just helping kickstart it. Catalyst. So yeah, that's the big plan, my big vision. Maybe you want to add to that, Eric?
No. I like if you look at bigger in market cap projects or blockchains, that's exactly how they do it. So they have a dev fund where they encourage people to build on top, and actually the RUJI integration opens this door. Like we might not have the budget right now, but we do have the app layer now that can bring in people to build in RUJI and indirectly help THORChain generate more revenue through that 50% slash. And in the end, it's all about, like, people do not care how the internet works. They, like, I know you have heard this analogy many times, but maybe someone in the audience hasn't. But people don't care about how the internet works. They just want to look at funny cat memes. So that's exactly what we have to achieve with THORChain. They don't have to care about how the rails work and they're using cross-chain, blah, blah, blah. They just have to be interested in the products that use the rails. And that's how blockchains do it right now. They see projects that have a good product market fit and say, okay, this is going to bring in users to the project, and the project is going to use my blockchain, so I want to support this project. So right now, that's exactly what THORChain does with the wallet, and that's why the integrations go to wallets. But at one point, RUJI apps and what we're trying to achieve with MOCA at one point will as well. But you want to bring in people to build on top of the protocol so that they generate revenue for the blockchain.
Yeah, totally. But guys, I don't want to get too far into that. I think we should save marketing now for another space. And I actually do personally need to get going here soon myself. But if anybody else has been itching to say something, you want to add on to the privacy, any last final thoughts by anybody else? I'll give you a minute. I don't see anybody's hands or being unmuted. All right. Well, let's wrap this up, guys. This has been great. I think we all agree privacy is important. It's necessary. Really cool to see Maya and getting Zcash going. The potential of a Monero pool on THORChain was one of the things that got me really interested in it. So I'm a huge believer in privacy is necessary. I do think ultimately we'll win. It might be a bumpy road along the way, but everyone says, like crypto it's become meme coins and everyone's lost the focus, it's focusing on the tech, the revolution, the philosophy anymore. And like we are, like the THORChain is, and focusing on privacy and freedom. And that's what keeps me going. I'm pretty sure that's what keeps a lot of us going. So we will win this battle, I think, at the end of the day. Awesome, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll try and do this again next week. Take care.